right, we all know about warranty nightmares. Automotive Warranty Network Incorporated. If your warranty process still involves sticky notes, tribal knowledge, and late night claims rejections, you're leaving money on the table. Automotive Warranty Network Incorporated brings clarity, compliance, and cash flow to your warranty game. They speak fluent OEM, and they've got your back. Hey, I want to encourage you to take a visit over to our partner, Target Automotive, at target.com. That is great until you're drowning in it. Target turns that chaos into clarity with dashboards that actually make sense. Fixed ops leaders finally get what they need: real-time, drill-down insights without the spreadsheet migraines. It's not just business intelligence, it's Target.
Thank you, everyone, for joining this episode of We Are. Today, we have Leslie on with us, Leslie Swan from InteliChek, and she is going to talk about building relationships and bridging the gap. And I think it's going to be an open discussion, so we hope that goes that way. Leslie, it's all yours.
Thank you, Melissa. So I'm excited about this topic. It's definitely one of those things that's been in my wheelhouse for more years than I want to admit to. And that is customer service / customer retention. And I'm going to focus more on customer retention today, but it all really falls into the same place. Because there's different ways of serving customers and retaining customers and building relationships. So just curious, how many of you feel that relationship building is an integral part of your business?
It's the beginning, the middle, and the end, all three.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Melissa. Yeah. Is there anybody that doesn't think it's important? I didn't think so. Okay. So I think it's important in our personal lives. I've had some personal experiences, both in the industry and outside of the industry, which I think I've told most of you about. And I won't go into the big, long, dragged out story, but when I was on the East Coast, there was a dealership that the service manager, I was in a really bad spot. He helped me out. He always watched to make sure my car was done correctly and that there were no issues and that I could just relax like you usually don't do when you take your car in to be serviced for whatever reason, whether it's a repair or whether it's just a normal service appointment. And to this day, he ended up moving to a different dealership, which was an hour away. And I went to his dealership just to have him take care of my car and me and my daughter. So also, so building those relationships and building the trust that someone has in you is just so important. And, integrity goes along with that. When you show that you have strong integrity and people can trust you, I really feel that most people will react to that in very positive ways. So, for example, you have people that are returning customers. They will come and continue to frequent your business, regardless of what that business is. They are 67% more likely to return if you've developed a relationship more than new customers. The strong relationships drive a higher customer lifetime value. And what I mean by that is longevity. They'll continue, as long as they're in the area, they will continue to come back as long as they know that they can trust you. And and I'm going to go down a road with this in just a few minutes. So So it's basically the quality of the relationship, how personal the relationship is. And I'm not saying they have to know that you have kids or, what color car you have or anything, whether you're married, not married, nothing like that. It's just making sure that you take care of that person. So, and they'll also be an advocate for you in terms of recommending you to other people, which is another thing for me. I've been in Arizona for 8 years. Things are different here than the East Coast. The way people do business here is different than the East Coast. It's kind of like when I first got here, it was kind of like a new world. And a lot of things David handled for me, like fixing the hot water heater that just recently went down and a whole bunch of other things that happen in your house, right? And so here I find myself, David's not here, and I don't necessarily know who did whatever the last time, and I need to find somebody to fix something. So who do I go to? I go to the people that I have strong relationships with that have helped me in the past. Like my pool person shows up here every week. And he's been a huge resource for referrals, and every single one of them have not disappointed. So it's like I've built this network of people around me. It's like a web to help me out if I need something. And so I was thinking one night, I'm laying there and I'm thinking about relationships in this industry in general. And I'm like, why is it? Because at one point, a couple years ago, I thought about buying a new car, and I went to a dealership, and everything was all great when I was going to buy that car. But then when they found out I wasn't going to buy the car, I still get emails from some of those people, but I don't get any phone calls. I don't get any personal messages, which, I don't really care. But by the same token, if somebody tried to develop a personal relationship with me, or I should say not personal, but a strong relationship with me, it could potentially be a game changer. So what I was thinking about was in the industry, when you do purchase a car, the salesperson has to develop, and this is a question I'm going to put out to all of you that I'm curious to hear your reaction to. My experience is when I buy a vehicle, I develop a relationship with the person that I'm buying the vehicle. I don't just walk in, buy the vehicle, and I'm out the door. It doesn't work that way. And then, if you're doing financing, there's all of that too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so I just wondered why, we're concerned about retaining customers from the time they purchase the car. I think one of the biggest concerns in our industry is people buy a car, people stay with the dealership as long as they're getting their warranty service, but after that, we tend to lose them.
Yeah.
And the big question is, how do we retain them? Well, my question to all of you is, why shouldn't a salesperson follow up with the person that they sold the car to on a regular basis, ongoing after the sale, to retain that relationship, to then at some point you pass it off to the service manager, right? Because that person is then bridge that gap between sales and service, so that person, sure, the salesperson is there to sell. I get that. But so is the person that's the service manager. And for that service manager to have to go in cold all the time, rather than having collaboration between the service manager and the salesperson, to me, not only does it not make sense in my head and who I am, but it also doesn't make sense from a financial standpoint. It costs so much more to build new relationships than it does to continue a relationship. And so, any feedback? This is what I want to hear from all of you.
I think you asked that question on purpose, so it'll start a chain reaction, and that's the only question you'll be able to ask because everybody has a lot of information about that, I'm sure.
And
that was great.
So, I looked up some statistics, and retention is more cost effective. It costs 5 to 7 times less than acquiring a new one. Loyal customers spend up to 67% more than new ones. A quality relationship builds trust, and it increases the emotional connection. And we know everything related to a vehicle is, I would say, is emotional, whether it's a negative emotion or a positive emotion.
Right.
Still an emotion, right?
Right.
And those same customers are 3 times more likely to recommend where they bought the car from when they do have some kind of emotional connection. So, and the personal connection is approximately 20% more guarantee that you're going to retain that client or customer.
And
so
I would think that it would also mean that they're coming back to that salesman to buy their next car, right? Because they've
that too. Yes, that is exactly where the longevity comes in. Because I can tell you, I would go back to that same dealership where my guy is. I call him my guy. His name's Peter. I'd go back there and buy a car if I were there. I mean, I'm not there, but if I have a question, I have a relationship with him. I could call him up and say, this is what they're telling me. And, can he see my car? No, but he could advise me questions to ask if I wanted him to. So anyway, open up the everything, let you guys talk. Go ahead.
Let me ask you a question, Leslie. Now, we can see it real clearly in the dealership, the relationship that your staff is building with the customers. What about from a vendor perspective? How do you retain your clients, your dealer clients? What do you do to keep them, the trust thick and keep them happy, keep them coming back? What kind of retention strategies do you have? Yeah.
Yeah. I think that personal touch every once in a while, reaching out for not to get any money out of them, just to say, hey, I haven't talked to you even an email. I haven't talked to you in a long time. Depending on what your business is, you could say, just wondering how you're doing with whatever. And please feel free to reach out if you have any questions, just to know that somebody's there. And I think, I always had in my career job, okay, we had a calendar system, and I can do it on my computer here, and I do it on my computer here. Just little things in my calendar to reach out to certain people at certain intervals of time, just so they know I'm here. Whether it's a friend, whether it's a second cousin, whatever it is, just reaching out and saying, no particular reason. I think I get the feeling that people, I'm going to call on you in just a second, Gretchen. I see your hand up. I think that people really appreciate that. When they don't have to respond, but you're just saying, hey, just checking in on you. All you need to do. Gretchen, what were you going to say?
So it's funny you said that about the calendar, right? So I'll bring up, we all used to have tickler files, for those who remember that, right? We had a tickler file. So now my new electronic tickler file calendar system is actually, I actually do an Alexa reminder. The reason why I do an Alexa reminder is because I can do it for 2028, 2020. It doesn't matter the day. And not only that, but then I have it set up in my Alexa account that it sends me a text message. So I get a text message from Alexa, right, in which then I have a list of my reminders. I don't like them in the separate reminder because I'm never going to go there. But if I get a text, and then in the morning, it's one of those, oh, it's St. Patrick's Day. I'm going to call Leslie. I'm going to call whomever because, this one likes this, or there's a car race coming. When the Daytona 500 hits, call Russell because I want to make sure his car is in the race, whatever the case may be. Things that are completely like not even related to the sale, but I can set that up. And then what I also do is because it's a text message, when I complete it, I actually, do the hard press for the thumbs up or the check off because that tells me I've done it.
Yep,
That way,
exactly.
that's why it's done. Using technology to kind of help out.
Yes. And even like in a conversation, somebody happens to mention that it was their anniversary or that it was their kid's birthday or whatever. Just that touch point is like, hey, you mentioned your baby's going to turn a year old and you're having a birthday party. Just wondered how it went and if you had a good time or whatever related to it, because people are really surprised that you can remember those things and you're really not remembering them. You have something to remind you, right? But you took the time to do it. And those are the things that I think, really, I know that they do. They build relationships. And it doesn't matter what business you're in. And Charity, that's, one of the other things, is just putting reminders in about something about that person.
Quick break in the action. Let's talk parts. Yeah, that corner of the dealership most people don't look at until there's a fire. Parts Edge helps you clean up that mess. Smarter inventory, better margins, and no more guessing games. It's like giving your parts manager a crystal ball, except this one actually works. Spiffy. You can manage your mobile appointments, optimize your service routes, track inventory, and process payments. All with Spiffy, and you can learn more at spiffy.com. You ever wish you could inspect every car like a tech with X-ray vision? UVI is like an MRI for your car. UVI doesn't miss a thing. Scans the tires, the underbody, body panels, and wheels for scuffs in seconds, giving your team instant, actionable intel without slowing down the lane. That's not the future. That's UVI, and it's live in stores today.
Or they're going on vacation, right? And you put in, 3 weeks later, you were on vacation in Puerto Rico or whatever, I hope you had a good time. That's it. They don't have to respond. It's like, oh, she remembered me. And I think, that is how you build it's not just about the transaction. That's what I'm saying. And plus they become advocates for you. It's like, yeah, that person is really, really nice, easy to work with, and referrals as well.
And to that point, salespeople will follow the salesperson or the person they have the relationship with from brand to brand. When I was in retail, I worked, it was like you have Acura, you have different, brands, and I watched my customers move from like a luxury to a non-luxury brand just because I was there. I've seen people in the industry, that here they are at Acura, then they go to VW. Now all of a sudden everybody's driving VWs. Then they go to an Audi store, then everybody's driving Audis. Now we're all, and because their customer group moves with them, it doesn't matter what they're selling. They're going to buy it and they're going to drive it. It doesn't matter the brand because of, to your point, Leslie, right? The relationship with the person.
Exactly. It's huge. And I just, I hear a lot of times on some of the calls, again, I haven't been in this industry forever. My industry was very different. It was a financial industry. And yeah, personal relationships were really important with that. But, it really, people were shocked when I would remember something that they told me. I would just like make a quick note about whatever, and just send them a note, an email, a text message, whatever your mode of communication is with that client. And they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you remembered that. Of course, I don't tell them I didn't remember it. I have a tickler system, right? But I just say, well, I was thinking about you. Okay, it's great. Charity, do you have any feedback on what I was saying in terms of ideas? Did you have other ideas, or do you think they wouldn't work, or what are your thoughts?
Well, I was going to pose that question is how does everybody feel about customer appreciation gifts, Christmas cards, gift sets, things like that? Uh, I've gotten them and I appreciate them, but I question how effective they are to upper management at dealerships. So any feedback on that would be awesome.
Yeah, we've questioned that. And Melissa can definitely, I see her shaking her head. We've sent out Christmas gifts and never heard a word. So
Yeah.
we're not sending Christmas gifts anymore. However, I will say this. One of the things that we did is instead of Christmas, do it at another time. It's not when everybody else is flooding their desk with baskets and yes, they're all really nice gifts, but they're quickly forgotten. But if you do it at a different time, like Thanksgiving, instead of a Christmas card, a Thanksgiving card, because some people don't celebrate Christmas either. So then you send a generic card, which is fine. I'm not criticizing that. I'm just saying, you can do it at a different time, or, if somebody's in a particularly, like Melissa, she's in Michigan, right? And if she were a customer of mine, I might consider sending her something either in the beginning of winter, like a hot chocolate box or something, or at the end of the winter, spring is coming, and thought you might enjoy, I can't think of a gift right now, but something like that. I think it has a bigger impact when it's not when everybody else is doing it.
Gretchen, because you don't hear something doesn't mean it's not seen, and that's true. That's true.
Yeah,
That's
and
true.
also too, it's the outrageous. So for Melissa, like I'll be touching base with her all year long. If I see something, I take a lot of pictures of things that are strange. Like you go to Target and you see a mug that has a saying on it, right? I take a picture of it because I know somebody in my group, and or I'm going to meet somebody that's going to be perfect for a touch base. Okay? Because you can screenshot it. When you screenshot it, you crop it. It makes it look like it was taken that day. You send it over. Oh, hey, Chris, I thought about you when I saw this at Target today. Okay, is Chris going to know? Chris is not going to know. Chris is going to get a random text from me with a saying on a mug, and he's going to be like, cool, bro. That's awesome, right? But for Melissa, at Christmas time, you know what I would send her? A big 50-pound bag of salt, rock salt. And it would get delivered to her office in this big Amazon boxes. Why? Because it's cold, it's snowy, it's icy. And Melissa, I want to make sure you're okay and you don't slip and fall. So I'm going to send you a big old bag of rock salt. That's what I'm going to do.
Christmas, we're all sold out of rock salt in Michigan, so that would be
there you go.
I want to miss Samantha. She said her mic's not working, but she is a BDC manager turned warranty administrator, and she still stresses this to sales guys. This goes back to your building relationships. Like any other industry, we should constantly be building a book of business, following up, asking for a referral, the review, even just following up to see how they like the vehicle. What did we do right? What could we have done better? People want to feel appreciated and validated.
Totally true.
I love that. Next one she's got on here for Valentine's Day, falling in love with Ford in the business. I love that. Yep.
Yeah.
And one of the other statistics related to what she just said is over 70% of buying decisions are influenced by customers and how they feel they're treated. Yeah. And I think a lot of people still want that human connection. Even like I love the salt thing. That's great because you're acknowledging where they are and some of the things that they have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very funny. you know, and it's just like, yeah, she gets it.
I have hard time sometimes. People, I think especially nowadays, there's a fine line between asking too much information of someone. So sometimes it's hard to get personal information out of someone to get. Dave Swan was fabulous at getting personal information from clients. He knew their hobbies and their family dynamic and all of that. I don't know how he did it, and I strive to that. How do you get that out of someone without feeling like you're crossing a line, though? How do you get that information out of clients without feeling like you're overstepping?
So that's the other thing I can tell you. Okay. Not only with him, because I remember those conversations, and he would always, you know, if it was somebody he really didn't know anything about, and he told everybody this, he would first start with the weather. Like, how is the weather there? Are you getting rain? You know, whatever. You'd think that's ridiculous, but it's not. And then the next thing you know, it's like, oh, well, yeah, you live in Michigan. Do you like to ski? That's not a personal question. You know, he would ask something like that. And the next thing, well, yeah, I like to ski in Utah. Oh, that's great. I used to ski in Utah. You know, even if he was making this up, which he wasn't, but sometimes he was. And no, he should be there. He's a really good skier. But people, that's the other thing. Once you kind of make that first introduction and get to a certain point, even just a little bit, people start telling you things. I mean, in my, I call it my career job because it's not this job, right? Even though this is now my career. I don't know any other way to explain it to you guys, but you can't believe the stuff that people would tell me that I didn't need to know. When their children were having children, when their children were having marital problems, if their kid got arrested, unbelievable, and stuff about them too. And it was just getting that relationship going. But in those conversations, like, yes, I'm going to be a grandmother in February. Oh, then they said that. So it's not unreasonable to say, oh, what's the due date of the baby? Oh, well, the due date is February 4th. Well, I'm not call February 4th. I might call her or him or whatever, you know, 2 or 3 weeks later, his name. And, you know, in our business, there was also some benefit to that too, because in the financial industry, you want to start 529s for kids. But that wasn't the reason why we asked. We were building relationships. And so in answer to your question, Melissa, once you just break the ice and get it going, most people will feed you information because people love to talk about themselves. It's amazing. And I am in case you hadn't figured it out by now, I am a relationship builder kind of person with anybody that's doing anything for me. I think you guys probably have it too. Your hairdresser, your barber, your person that does your nails, your doctor. You know, you want them to know who you are so they can make good judgment calls for you. And it's the same thing with a car or buying a car and servicing that car. I want the person in the service department to know, number one, I'm not messing around and I want to know what's wrong. And I am going to ask. And it's not because I'm checking up on you, but I want to know what you're doing to my car. Right. And I've built relationships there too, the same way. It's just, you know, some people won't. And it takes a little bit more finesse to get them to, but that's where if you can just find one thing, like they were on vacation, hope you had a nice vacation, that's not anything personal, sometimes they'll come your way. It's definitely, it can be a challenge. And the same thing in terms of turning bad situations around. Dealing with angry customers, they're my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Let me at it, because I guarantee you I will flip it. And that's the goal. And so, that comes more into customer service training in terms of, listening to the customer, hearing their complaint. And that's where I think a lot of people don't understand customer service, but that's a bit of a different topic, but it's all rolled into the same thing. It's
It
how do you
is.
build a relationship
Yeah, that
and
reminds
repair.
me of a
Gretchen says, I find the more you're willing to share about yourself, people will open up.
Yep.
I'm a super open person, so you can ask me anything and I'll answer it. But I find when I share things about myself, then people kind of like, they're like, oh, okay, this. And then you get that conversation going where then you can just ask a bunch of questions. But you're right, Leslie? It's drips and drabs like over time, as they get more comfortable. And that's where, technology, that's what's in my contact in my phone. Like go into your contact and there's a notes at the bottom. And that's where I hit the microphone and I just, put in there like, oh, it's funny. I have it right here on a sticky note, which is hilarious. I was having a conversation with a customer who has four grandchildren, like 5, 11, 2. And he was just telling me, oh, like, this one was born, he'll be 2 in March, right? This and that. And it all went into his contact. I've already put in reminders into my phone, for March of 2026 at the end of how did that birthday party go? Whatever the case may be, just had a new grandchild. We're going to wait. I put another one in for 6 months, because that's that point where they're getting ready to get their vaccinations. How are they feeling, whatnot and so forth.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yep. It's that detail. And, I have to say, Gretchen, I think you and I are, similar in that way that you will talk to people and share things. And not everybody is, from our side of things, not everybody's comfortable sharing information about themselves or even being too friendly or, and I think, again, having, even if it's on camera, face to face, you can kind of see how somebody's reacting to you. And if you need to back off, you just do. But I think that generally speaking, people like to talk about themselves. There are some that don't, but I think once you get them going, it's like open up the faucet and it just goes. And you can use it to your advantage. It's important to take that time with people and hear what they have or what their concerns are. Asking for feedback is another one. And so anyway, getting back to, bridging the gap between sales and service, I don't see that happening. And I'd like to hear from all of you if you know why. What are your thoughts?
Hey,
Like,
this is
it's
Chris. Yeah, I'd love to chime in. So I'm different. I'm in the outdoor recreation industry, came from auto for over 10 years, but the asking feedback is great. So we're a technology company that sells into, RV, power sports, marine, golf cart dealers. And I always ask for feedback once we sell them one of our products. What I've had a really good success with is once I sell them, they're always telling me what problems they have, they're struggling with. So every couple of months, I've checked in with them, and generally they will come back, and we're building solutions based on their feedback. So we have a feedback loop. I mean, they'll call me. I sold the deal to them a year ago, but they'll check with me once a month. I'll check in with them like, hey, we fixed this problem. We found a solution. Would you want to pilot this with me? And they're the ones that jump on it, my most loyal dealers, because of getting feedback, putting them on our pilot program with us to be very successful that way. It's definitely a little bit more of a relationship business on our side because it requires, more emotional. These products are a little more emotional, but I have a really good success with getting feedback and doing it that way.
Yeah. Well, and that would be another idea, after the first, I think oil change is probably the first thing after a new car. Have that salesperson call and say, you know what, I saw you were in for your oil. One of two things could happen. You haven't come in for your oil change, just checking in, right? The other, because you can kind of approximate how much time it's going to take. I think that that's fair to say, unless this person hardly ever drives, but that would be something that you would have found out in selling the car, right? So, keeping some notes about that, but also finding out, you were in for your oil change, and I would love to know how that went. How was the salesperson? Did you get greeted? Were you happy with the service? Was your car clean? Whatever are the top 10 things that customers complain about or that the dealership would be most concerned about. I would definitely want a salesperson to do something like that and then bridge that gap. And that salesperson should be talking to the service manager, say, hey, this person came in, they got their oil changed, and guess what? There was dirt on their seat or whatever. We need to be careful.
Yeah, within our industry, it's great because there's so much. I mean, when you buy an outdoor recreation product, there's all accessories or service. Nobody's doing it themselves most of the time, right? They're having to come in. They're pretty technical. So they're walking over to the sales, the accessories. They have a accessories manager, a parts manager, a service man. I mean, they have these other huge profit centers within these products that it's like get to know everybody. So they get to know their service manager, their parts accessory person, their salesperson. So it's a lot more collaborative that way, which is an advantage for us at least.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess, it's really the question, how much collaboration is there between the sales side and the service side? And if it isn't there, why isn't it there? That's what I'm interested in knowing. Like, what is that breakdown about? And is it even like it? I don't know if you guys are sitting there going, she's crazy. She doesn't know what she's talking about. If that's the case, then I'd like to know that too. But I also would like to know why.
No, you're not crazy at all. The reason in many cases is that the managers, not the people under them, are protecting their turf. Okay, this is my chimney. I run this chimney. I do this. If we're going to communicate with service, you'll do it through me. And then it doesn't happen at all because the two guys at the top either don't like each other or don't want to be involved in each other's business, and they tend to push back on having that done. Now, the guys that are, smarter and get it and realize that it is a virtuous circle between sales and service, recognize it differently and do it differently. But generally speaking, when you see that wall, it's a wall that's been created by the leaders, not a wall that's been created by the individual people. That's generally what I've found. And I think the other piece that you talked about a little while ago, when you communicate with somebody, okay, you have to be genuine. You have to be genuinely curious and genuinely interested. And I think part of the problem for sales is you're constantly trained to be transactional. Everything you do is transactional. And there's a reason for that, and I get it. But when you have that kind of a conversation with somebody, it's not building a relationship. Calling me to sell me an ESP contract is not building a relationship. Yeah. And I think a lot of this transactional mindset gets in the way. So if I looked at two things, it's usually the leadership, or it's this inability to get beyond the transactional training and to be genuinely curious. I mean, when you talk to someone, the reason they talk to you is because they can sense you are genuinely interested. All right.
Yep.
And nowadays, more and more people are looking for that genuine connection because so much of what you hear is phony. So much of it is designed to get you to think one way or do this or do that or do the other thing. And so if your communication is genuine and if it's consistent, so you're not just sending me something at Christmas, okay, which the first reaction I have as a customer is, okay, what do they want? Because nobody sends you anything for nothing, okay? And so it is about the littler conversations that you mentioned, talking, saying, hey, just called to say hi, how you doing? How's everything going? I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just checking up because I'm interested in my customers and I want to make sure the experience you're having with our car is terrific. That's all. I don't want you to do anything for me. I don't want you to give me anything. But if you do that and you do that consistently and you're genuinely interested in these things, and it's not about using that information to your benefit, ultimately the relationship is what is beneficial to the dealership and beneficial to you as someone in the dealership.
Right.
But the actual specific information shouldn't be looked at as something I'm going to use, because that tends to come off as very transactional. And I don't know, people seem to have much more sensitive bullshit meters these days than they used to. So for what it's worth.
Yeah. No, I think for sure you need to be genuine. Absolutely. And that's part of making the contact, whether it's phone, text, email, for no particular reason. That has nothing to do with selling them anything. And I think, in a lot of ways, things like that they're free. They don't cost you anything except for a few minutes of time. And they have the biggest impact. I'm going to remember the person that called to see how I'm doing after whatever, way more than somebody that sends me a trinket. Interesting. I know, Melissa, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I had a car salesman. I've not had good experience with car salesmen, and I've always felt transactional, Stephen. That was the word when you said that just exactly what I felt in the past. I had one salesman who called me 3 days after I bought the car to see how I was doing, if there was any questions I had about the car. He called me on the 1-year anniversary. He personally picked up the phone and called me, and that was the only time that's ever happened. And I've bought a lot of cars in my life, and I remember him still, and would always have bought a car from him had he still been in the business.
Yeah, because it's genuine. Most of the conversations you have with people and people you have relationships with are genuine. Okay, because you're not trying to sell them something. Okay, you're not trying to make this something that it isn't. And as long as you do that same thing with your clients and with your customers, you're going to find a very similar reaction. And I don't think being genuine and being sincere is something you can train. You either are or you aren't. Okay. And some people aren't. It is what it is. But when you're trying to fake your sincerity, oh my God, it sounds bad. It just sounds awful. I mean, it's like watching a TV show where they're making fun of a salesman and you're looking at it in real life and you're going, wow, okay. So anyway, that's just my take.
Yeah, for sure. Even though, you may not have a personal interest, but from a business standpoint, you're actually saving money by doing that. So I guess that's where I would have a hard time not understanding. You can't be sincere with a person and truly act sincere, even if in the back of your head it's more about saving money.
Yeah, if you can say whatever you want to say, your body always tells the truth. You can pick up on nuances. There's just no way you can make the body lie. So you pick up on those nuances. But for me, I love sales, and I love salespeople, men and women, and I love buying from salespeople. I love being sold, actually. And if I like them, trust them, believe them, I'll buy from them, and I'll pay for it. I'll pay for it because I want to know I can come back. But unfortunately, in this business, that's pretty rare. My son's dealership where he works at, there's same people been there. He's been there 10 years, and there's 20 and 30-year salespeople that have been there. I mean, it's just like that is like 1 out of 200 dealerships that's that way. Most of them they're gone. And I want the same thing. I want to go to the same person and buy. And sometimes, I mean, if that person, or if I move across the country, I would even still entertain flying out there and buying it from that person, or having it drop shipped, directly to me.
Well, when I was working for Ford and I ran the select dealer region, we had dealers all across the country. And one of the things they really liked about our people is the relationship that they built. And everybody was located in Florida. We had guys driving out to Texas to buy cars from their dealerships.
Yeah, they bought them from me, Stephen. That's who they bought them from.
I mean, it's amazing. you go out and you traveled, I don't know how many thousand miles to go to one of your dealerships because you're on a call system where you're covering Texas. Trust me, that has a very big impact on guys when you're in the car business. I mean, it's just, it was something they were interested in. And the other thing that you had there too is there weren't a lot of people looking at a career at Ford. They were just looking to be the best zone manager they could be. And the dealers actually loved that a lot. It's when somebody's, you're going to stop by here for a year or so, and then you're going to go on to the next thing. And, you don't really care because this is the starting job. This isn't your ending job. So it was just interesting to see the relationships. And we had those meetings once a year, and the guys would come in. And the only people from Ford they were the least bit interested in talking to were their zone manager. You had the executives show up, all the big shots show up, and the dealer's like, yeah, no, I'm going out to dinner with my zone manager. And they would literally say that to the guys when the guys said, well, we have an executive dinner. Would you like to attend? No, I'm going out with my zone manager. It was great. I loved it.
So I guess my end question is, do you see it as something feasible? And if so, how does one promote that?
There's big changes in this industry. It takes a lot to turn this ship. You have, for the first time in history, 4 generations all working in the same business. You got all these different generations, and certain things are important to each one of those generations that are not really important to others. Like I work my rear end off, okay? And we have a lot of young people in my company, and we're going to 4 10-hour days so they can, have a little more time, longer weekends or whatever, as long as the bases get covered. Everybody has different things in those generations that are important to them that are not important to or the other generations don't really understand. And I try to make it a point to understand and appeal to those types of things because they're important to them. One other note, and then I unfortunately have to a meeting I'm preparing for. Great questions. I learned something a long time ago because I used to always walk through the service department. That was part of the road to the sale, the process that I was trained on. And if you follow that process, you can be very successful. If you deviate, it costs you gross, repeat, referral, CSI, and SSI. And so part of that process was to build that relationship. And part of that included after the sale, introduce them to people in the service department, let them know where to go, make them feel a little bit more comfortable. And then I used to also, minimum 3 times a week, I would show up early and work the service drive. And I saw something amazing happen. Charity's heard this, probably some of you have too. And I learned the 6 most powerful words in the English vocabulary. And this lady got out of her car and she was upset. I mean, she was just really upset. It was about 7:45 in the morning. And she walked, or I think it was service advisor, came out to greet her. And I just stood back and watched what happened. I mean, watch what unfold in front of me. And it seems like it was, 10 or 15 minutes, but it was really only about 45 seconds. The whole thing really occurred. He was listening to her intently. Eye contact was there, right distance, nodding his head that he was hearing her. Okay. And after she lambasted him or the dealership, it was, she took a breath after 45 seconds. And he said, I apologize. I hope you can forgive me. And then he shut up. That's all it took. She was, oh, I'm so sorry. I had this happen. I got the kids to school work late. I mean, I'm just, whatever the case may be. It was really profound when you say those words and then you don't say anything after that. The pause may seem indefinite. It's only seconds though. And usually the other person responds right away and they realize that, hey, I was wrong.
Yeah, well,
Yep.
usually they're upset because of something that's going on in their life that's already upsetting them, and then this is just another log on the load kind of thing, and
Yep.
and that gets them to explode. But your question, Leslie, about where you can make a difference or how you can, I think your biggest impact these days is leadership. You have to honestly, to make changes in the dealership environment that we have today, you have to have an impact on the leadership team in different stores. And if they start to think differently and act differently and do it consistently, their employees will follow suit. Because most of the time, and look, I called on thousands of dealers working at Ford. Honestly, I can go in and talk to a dealer.
Hey, Stephen,
minutes.
if I may just for a second, I don't just want to turn off and leave. I just want to say, if nobody told y'all that they appreciated and loved you today, I did. So pick back up, Stephen, and I'll talk to you later.
Bye, Russell.
Thank you. Bye.
Robert Russell.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
But yeah, I can talk to a dealer for 20 minutes. I can tell you exactly how his store runs. It's not rocket science. Just watch them. Watch their body language. Watch how they act. And if you happen to have a chance to have them walk through the store where they're saying hi to everybody, watch what happens in front of them and then watch what happens behind them. And if those two activities are different, everybody thinks whatever they're saying is phony.
Right.
But I would say if you have an opportunity to impact leadership teams, that would be your best route, because this conversation has been had for the last 40 years and has not changed in most dealerships. As Russell just said, even today, it's more stores, but it's still a relatively small number of dealerships that do the things that everybody would say are, kind of duh. I mean, you mean you don't do that? Why don't you do that? They get too busy, they get too excited, or they get too, there's too much pressure, whatever. But I think if you can influence them, that's your best avenue right now.
So let me ask you, Stephen, we have this conversation, and you said this conversation's been had for 40 years. Is it happening in the dealership, though? Do dealerships themselves have the same conversation, wondering how to do this and care?
Good question.
They do. It comes back to who the leaders are. Now, I've seen dealerships shift generations. So the younger generation of the family comes in, and you can see there's a shift away from sort of the adversarial relationship with everybody that used to be the case for Dad. I don't do that because I think differently. You can see those changes happen. And as I said, you call on stores, multiple stores, repeatedly, year after year after year. You see a lot of things. I remember the first store I was in as a zone manager. To this day, I go to NADA, and the kids that are running the store now come up and say hi. They're very genuine, caring people, and they always have been. The dealer's wife helped me pick out my first wedding anniversary gift. She didn't have to do that, And to this day, the kids are very sincere, very genuine about it. But I can remember when they were 10, 8, running around the dealership and cleaning the cars. And I'm looking at them now, and now they're the dealer principal in charge of 5 dealerships. So it's interesting to watch the changes over time, but I do think the generations, one to the other, change things. And you see that change happen because the kids do things differently, sometimes for better, sometimes not so much for better, but that changes. And when you see ownership now shifts over to these, conglomerates that own 500 dealerships, it's very different if you're a general manager working for one of those organizations than if you're someone whose name is on the building and who goes to church with the people they do business with all the time, who lives in that community, who cares about that community. You will see a much different approach from that person than you will from someone who's just the GM. But Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's any silver bullet answer to this. And I think a lot of the problem is that most of the discussions that get had about leadership are far too generic. And the reality is you need to have more customized solutions because dealers are customized places. I don't know how else to describe it. That I've been in so many of them, and the only thing that's the same is they sell cars and trucks. Okay. But everything else, the steps, the processes, the people, the atmosphere is different. And I think it requires a customized training approach that, again, is very difficult to do and very difficult for people to scale. I mean, you talk about the reason there's limited technology in dealerships today is because of those differences. Because I can't create a sales process and then scale it to 17,000 dealers overnight. If I could do that, the tech companies would have been all over it. I mean, that's their business model. And so when you tell them, no, yeah, that process you created for that store, that's not going to work at the next store. Well,
Right.
that's very frustrating.
Yeah.
So that's all, in a way, it's not rocket science, but in a way, it's a lot harder than rocket science.
Right.
Rocket science is math. People are not math.
Yeah. So we're actually at time, but really quick question. When a dealership changes hands from like father to son or daughter or whatever the case may be, does that person kind of work their way into taking over? Like, are you aware of it when it's happening? And the reason I'm asking that is because if you are, and that relationship is going to change between, let's just say, the dad and the daughter, okay? Is there an opportunity to invite the new person, maybe it's a nephew or a niece, whatever, to come in and join some of the meetings so that you can then bridge the gap and develop that relationship while the person going out is still there?
Sometimes they do, but the person going out a lot of times tends to be, hey, I'm not dead yet, or I'm not gone yet mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Yeah.
unfortunately, occasionally you get, the daughter will speak up and say something, or the son, or whoever it is that's sort of the heir apparent. And, I don't know whether it's a sense of, let me show you who's still in charge, but they seem to feel compelled to step on them from time to time. And so they learn pretty quickly, you know what, I'm going to let dad talk. And when he's gone, then I'll do the talking. And you get more out of them and more genuine things from them after the parent is out of the business. And sometimes that's hard to accomplish because I remember, dealers leave it to their kid and then, they cruise in every now and again, cause all kinds of chaos, raid petty cash, and head out in the limo,
Right.
just because they can.
Right.
So
Right.
it depends, but I have seen a lot of changes with the new generation coming in, and I've seen a lot of very positive changes. They have a much better understanding of technology and how it interacts. They have a much better understanding of why younger people care so much about you being genuine. They care about, what your company does. Okay. They actually care that you give to charities and that you do these things. Whereas, my generation honestly didn't. I didn't care what charity your company gave. That wasn't the deciding factor in me buying something from you. But today it is. And I think when the younger generation come in, they actually reflect that in the store. And you start to see changes like that because the people now look and go, oh, okay. So new light at the head of the tunnel, and it's going a little different way. And it's, and a lot of times it can be very, very positive.
Right.
But, none of it's easy. If it was, everybody be doing it. And, that's what makes the car business an interesting challenge.
For sure.
Well, that is it for our hour. So that was a great conversation and might be one that we need to continue with. But thank you everybody for joining.
Yes, thank you joining, and always want to hear feedback. So if you come up with something later, you want to send me an email, please feel free to do so. I'd love to hear from you. And thanks for all your participation. I appreciate your insight.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, everyone. See you
Bye.
next week.
Yes,
Bye.
take care.